The avoidant is watching you differently now. Something has fundamentally shifted in how they perceive you, and that shift is creating respect they've never felt toward you before. This isn't the superficial respect they might have had when you first met. This is deep, genuine respect that's actually changing how they relate to you. They're seeing you as an equal for the first time, maybe seeing you as superior in ways they won't admit out loud. You've done something that most people never do with avoidance. You've earned their respect not by chasing them or accommodating their limitations or making yourself small to fit their restricted capacity for intimacy. You've earned it by doing the opposite, by setting boundaries they couldn't cross, by maintaining standards they had to meet, by choosing yourself when they couldn't choose you, by demonstrating strength that matches or exceeds their own defended autonomy. The avoidant respects strength, respects boundaries, respects people who don't need them. And you've finally embodied these qualities in ways they can't ignore. But this comes with a warning that's crucial to understand. Earning the avoidant's respect doesn't guarantee a healthy relationship with them. It doesn't mean they're suddenly capable of the intimacy you need. It doesn't transform their attachment wounds or eliminate their patterns. What it does is change the dynamic from one where they had all the power to one where power is balanced or shifted toward you. And while this balance is necessary for any healthy relationship, with an avoidant, it's only the beginning of what would need to happen for real partnership to be possible. Many people earn the avoidant's respect and then make the mistake of thinking respect equals readiness for relationship. It doesn't. Respect is the foundation, but the house still needs to be built. And building it requires the avoidant doing substantial work on themselves that respect alone doesn't motivate. This warning exists because earning an avoidant's respect can actually be more dangerous than never earning it at all. When you don't have their respect, the relationship fails quickly and obviously. The avoidant is dismissive, you recognize you're being treated poorly, you leave or they discard you, and it's painful but clear. But when you earn their respect, the relationship can continue for years in a state that looks healthier than it is. The avoidant treats you better, shows up more consistently, gives you more of themselves. But better isn't the same as good enough. More consistent isn't the same as truly available. More of themselves isn't the same as all of themselves. You can have an avoidance respect and still be in a relationship that leaves you lonely, that requires you to accept limited intimacy, that asks you to be satisfied with someone's best effort, even when their best effort falls significantly short of what healthy partnership requires. What earning respect actually looks like. You've earned the avoidant's respect when they stop taking you for granted. This is visible in concrete behavioral changes. They respond to your messages more consistently. They follow through on commitments they make to you. They consider your needs when making decisions that affect you. They stop disappearing without explanation. They communicate about their need for space rather than just creating it and expecting you to tolerate it. The casual dismissiveness that characterized their previous treatment of you is gone, replaced by consideration that shows they recognize you're someone whose time and energy have value. Earning respect also looks like the avoidant actually being affected by your boundaries. When you set a boundary and maintain it, the avoidant who respects you adjusts their behavior rather than pushing against the boundary or dismissing it as your problem. If you say you're not available for inconsistent communication, they become more consistent, or they accept that the relationship will end. If you express that you need reliability, they show up more reliably, or they recognize they're losing you. The key is that your boundaries have consequences for them that they care about, rather than being abstract concepts they acknowledge verbally while ignoring behaviorally. You've also earned respect when the avoidant stops projecting their limitations onto you. They stop calling you needy when you express normal relationship needs. They stop framing your requirements for consistency as pressure. They stop characterizing your desire for emotional intimacy as too much. Instead, they recognize that your needs are legitimate, and their inability to meet those needs is their limitation, not your flaw. This shift from externalizing blame to taking ownership is a massive indicator of respect because it means they see you clearly as a separate person with valid needs rather than as an extension of their own psychology that should conform to their comfort. Earning the avoidant's respect looks like them actually consulting you, considering you, including you in ways they don't include most people. They ask your opinion and actually listen to it. They share parts of their life they typically keep private. They introduce you to important people in their world. They make space for you in their carefully controlled existence in ways that show you've been elevated to a status few people achieve with them. The avoidant is highly selective about who gets access to their real life, and respect is visible in you being granted access others don't get. You've earned respect when the avoidant stops testing you and starts trusting you. The endless tests that characterize early interactions with avoidance, the pulling away to see if you'll chase, the coldness to see if you'll tolerate it, the inconsistency to see if you'll accept it, all of that stops. Not because you pass the tests by pursuing or tolerating, but because you refuse to take the tests at all. You demonstrated you have your own standards, and you'll walk away rather than prove yourself worthy of someone's inconsistent attention. The avoidant respects this refusal and stops testing because they recognize you're not someone who can be controlled or manipulated through their usual strategies. How respect changes the avoidant's behavior. When the avoidant respects you, their anxiety about the relationship shifts. Instead of being anxious about you wanting too much from them, they become anxious about losing you. This is a fundamental shift in the power dynamic. Previously, you were the one worried about their withdrawal, their inconsistency, their potential departure. But once they respect you, they start worrying about your withdrawal, your potential departure, your willingness to stay. They recognize you're not guaranteed. They understand you have options. They see that you could leave, and the loss would be significant because they finally recognized your value. This anxiety manifests as them putting in effort they didn't before. The avoidant who respects you will initiate contact more frequently. They'll plan things with you rather than just accepting your planning. They'll remember details about your life and ask about them. They'll show up when they say they will. They'll be more emotionally present during your time together. None of this means they're suddenly secure in their attachment. They're still avoidant. But respect motivates them to manage their avoidance better, to push through discomfort more often, to try harder than they would with someone they don't respect. The avoidant also becomes more honest when they respect you. They start communicating about their struggles with intimacy rather than just acting them out through withdrawal. They might say, "I'm feeling overwhelmed and need some space," instead of disappearing. They might admit, "I'm scared of how much I care about you," instead of becoming cold to create distance. This honesty doesn't solve their avoidance, but it transforms the dynamic from you constantly wondering what's happening to you having information about what's happening. The relationship becomes more predictable because they're telling you what's going on rather than leaving you to interpret their behavior. When the avoidant respects you, they're also more willing to hear feedback about their behavior. They don't immediately become defensive when you point out that their actions hurt you. They actually consider what you're saying rather than dismissing it as you being too sensitive. They might even apologize, a rarity for avoidants who typically protect themselves from the vulnerability of apology. And while hearing feedback doesn't guarantee changing behavior, being willing to hear it is prerequisite for change being possible at all. The avoidant who doesn't respect you won't even listen to how their behavior affects you. The one who respects you will at least listen, even if integration of that feedback is slow. Respect also means the avoidant is less likely to monkey branch or keep backup options. When they don't respect you, they maintain other possibilities, because they don't see you as particularly special or hard to replace. But when they respect you, they recognize you're not easily replaced. They understand that walking away from you means losing something valuable. This doesn't mean they're suddenly capable of deep commitment or that they won't still have one foot out the door emotionally. But it means they're less casual about the relationship, less willing to throw it away for someone new, more invested in trying to make it work, even though trying is uncomfortable for them. Why respect alone isn't enough. The critical warning is this: the avoidant can respect you deeply and still be completely incapable of the relationship you need. Respect doesn't heal attachment wounds. It doesn't eliminate their fear of vulnerability. It doesn't create capacity for emotional intimacy they've never developed. It doesn't make them suddenly able to tolerate the discomfort of sustained closeness. What respect does is make them want to try harder and be more aware of their limitations. But wanting to do better and being able to do better are entirely different things. You can have an avoidance respect and still find yourself in a relationship where emotional intimacy is limited, where vulnerability is rare and always followed by withdrawal, where you're getting the best version of them, but their best version still involves significant emotional distance, where they're trying, but their trying still leaves you feeling lonely in fundamental ways. Respect changes how they treat you and how much they value you, but it doesn't change their core attachment patterns without significant therapeutic work that most avoidants never do. The danger of having an avoidance respect is that the relationship becomes good enough that you convince yourself to stay in something that's fundamentally insufficient. The avoidant treats you well enough that you feel guilty for wanting more. They're trying hard enough that you feel selfish for saying their effort isn't enough. They respect you enough that you feel ungrateful for acknowledging you're still lonely. You end up staying in a relationship that's better than what most people get from that avoidant, but still far short of what you'd experience in a relationship with someone who has secure attachment. Respect also doesn't prevent the avoidant from leaving when the relationship demands more vulnerability than they can access. An avoidant can respect you tremendously, value you highly, recognize you're the best partner they've ever had, and still walk away because the requirements of deep intimacy overwhelm them. They'll leave feeling terrible about it, knowing they're losing something precious, fully aware that their limitations are the problem. But respect doesn't override fear. When the avoidant hits the ceiling of their intimacy capacity, respect for you won't push that ceiling higher. They'll just leave while respecting you, rather than leaving while dismissing you. Having an avoidance respect can also trap you in hoping they'll change. Because they're treating you better than before, because they're clearly trying, because they obviously care, you start believing that with enough time, they'll overcome their avoidance. You see their respect as evidence they're changing, and you wait for the change to go deeper. But respect-motivated behavior change is still surface level compared to the deep attachment healing the avoidant needs. They can respect you and maintain better behavior for years while never actually addressing their core wounds. And you can waste years waiting for depth that never comes, thinking respect will eventually transform into secure attachment, when in reality respect and secure attachment are completely separate things. Who this warning is for. This warning is for people who are currently with an avoidant who recently started respecting them and are now confused about what this means for the relationship. You're wondering if the respect signals readiness for real partnership. You're asking yourself if you should stay and see if the respect translates into actual relationship growth. You're trying to figure out if the improved behavior is enough or if you should still walk away. This warning is here to tell you, respect is necessary but not sufficient. Don't mistake the avoidance respect for their readiness to do the deep work required for real intimacy. This warning is also for people who are contemplating whether to pursue earning an avoidance respect. You're reading advice about how to make an avoidant chase you, how to create mystery, how to use strategic distance to increase your value in their eyes. And you're thinking that if you can just get them to respect you, the relationship will work. This warning is here to tell you, earning respect from someone who is fundamentally unavailable is not a worthwhile goal. You're better off finding someone who has the capacity for the intimacy you need, rather than trying to earn respect from someone who lacks that capacity. This warning is for people who earned an avoidance respect and are now struggling with whether that respect is enough. The avoidant treats you better than they treat most people. They show up more consistently than they ever have. They clearly value you, but you're still lonely. You're still feeling like something essential is missing. You're questioning whether you're asking for too much or whether your needs are legitimate. This warning is here to tell you, your needs are legitimate, and having someone's respect doesn't obligate you to stay in a relationship that doesn't meet those needs. This warning is also for people who think earning an avoidance respect is the solution to their relationship problems. You believe that if you just implement the right strategies, if you maintain the right boundaries, if you demonstrate the right level of independence, the avoidant will respect you and everything will be fine. This warning is here to tell you, respect might change the dynamic, but it won't fix a fundamentally broken relationship. If you have to strategize and perform and maintain elaborate boundaries just to earn basic respect, you're in the wrong relationship. The specific behaviors that earn respect. Understanding what earns an avoidance respect is important because it illuminates what avoidance value and what you're signing up for if you pursue this path. Avoidants respect independence, which means they respect people who don't need them. This creates a paradox. To earn their respect, you have to genuinely not need them. But if you genuinely don't need them, why are you pursuing their respect at all? The answer is you shouldn't be pursuing it. Respect from an avoidant comes as a byproduct of you living your life with strong boundaries and high standards, not as a goal you're trying to achieve. Avoidants respect people who leave. This is perhaps the most perverse aspect of their psychology. The person who stays through their inconsistency loses respect. The person who leaves when they're mistreated earns respect. You earn their respect by walking away when they can't show up, by ending things when they're not meeting your needs, by choosing yourself over the relationship. The avoidant watches you leave and suddenly sees you as valuable because you proved you won't tolerate poor treatment. But here's the trap. Once you've left and earned their respect, getting back together means entering a relationship with someone whose respect for you is contingent on your continued willingness to leave if they don't treat you right. The relationship becomes an ongoing power negotiation rather than a partnership. Avoidants respect people who have standards and enforce them. If you say you need consistency, you need to actually leave when consistency isn't provided. If you say you need emotional availability, you need to end things when emotional availability isn't present. If you say you need commitment, you need to walk away when commitment isn't offered. The avoidant respects the enforcing of standards, not the having of standards. Everyone has standards. The question is whether you betray yourself by staying when those standards aren't met. The avoidant respects you only when the answer is no, you won't betray yourself, even if that means losing them. Avoidants respect people who aren't visibly affected by their withdrawal. This doesn't mean pretending you're unaffected when you're devastated inside. It means actually doing the work on yourself so that their withdrawal doesn't devastate you, so that you have a full enough life that their presence or absence doesn't determine your emotional state. The avoidant respects people who seem to be fine without them, because people who are fine without them represent safety. These are people who won't become dependent, who won't be clingy, who won't require more than the avoidant can give. But again, the paradox, if you're genuinely fine without them, why are you in relationship with them? Avoidants respect people who call them on their patterns without being emotional about it. If you can say, I notice you tend to withdraw when we get close, and I'm not interested in a relationship with that dynamic, in a calm, matter-of-fact way, the avoidant respects the clarity and the boundary. But if you say the same thing while crying, while angry, while emotionally intense, they dismiss you as too emotional and lose respect. This requirement for you to address legitimate hurt without emotional expression is itself a red flag about what relationship with them will require. Constant self-regulation of your emotions to accommodate their inability to handle emotional intensity. The moment you earn respect changes everything and nothing. And when you earn an avoidant's respect, there's often a visible moment where something shifts. Maybe you finally enforced a boundary. Maybe you walked away when they expected you to stay. Maybe you demonstrated you have other options and aren't waiting around for them. Maybe you stopped chasing and started living your life fully without them. Whatever the specific moment, the avoidant's perception of you changes. They see you differently. You move from being someone they took for granted to someone they respect, someone who earned a status in their psychology that few achieve. This moment changes everything in terms of how they treat you. They show up better, they try harder, they value you more visibly, they're more consistent, they communicate more, they're less likely to play games. The relationship becomes more stable and predictable. If this is all you wanted, if you just needed them to treat you with basic respect and consideration, then earning their respect might make the relationship workable for you. But if what you need is deep emotional intimacy, sustained vulnerability, someone who can truly meet you in emotional space, then earning their respect changes nothing about whether this relationship can give you what you need. The moment you earn respect also reveals the avoidant's capacity for growth. Some avoidants, once they respect you, recognize they need to do their own work to keep you. They start therapy. They read about attachment. They actively work on their patterns. They push themselves to be more vulnerable, more consistent, more emotionally available. The respect becomes a catalyst for their personal growth. But these avoidants are rare. Most avoidants, even ones who respect you, still avoid the deep work. They'll manage their avoidance better, they'll be more self-aware about it, they'll communicate about it more, but they won't fundamentally transform. The respect changes their behavior toward you without changing their attachment patterns. Having an avoidance respect also gives you clearer information. When they didn't respect you, you could tell yourself that if they just saw your value, things would be different. But once they respect you, once they clearly see your value and treat you better accordingly, you can see more clearly whether better is good enough. You're no longer dealing with someone who dismisses you or takes you for granted. You're dealing with someone who values you and is trying, and you can assess whether their trying is sufficient for your needs. For some people, this clarity leads to the painful recognition that even an avoidant at their best isn't enough. For others, it leads to accepting a relationship that's good enough, even if it's not everything they wanted. What to do with their respect. If you've earned an avoidance respect, you're at a critical decision point. You can stay in the relationship and accept that this is likely the ceiling of what they can offer. The respect means they'll treat you well, but it doesn't mean they'll be capable of depth. You'll have a relationship with someone who values you but still maintains significant emotional distance. Someone who tries but still has one foot out the door. Someone who respects you but still struggles with vulnerability. If you can accept these limitations, if you can be satisfied with what respect gets you, even if it doesn't get you everything, then staying might be okay. But you need to be honest with yourself about whether you can actually accept limitations or whether you'll be perpetually disappointed that respect didn't translate into transformation. You can also use the respect as leverage to require the avoidant do their own work as a condition of continuing the relationship. This looks like saying, I appreciate that you're treating me better and I see that you value me. But for this relationship to work long term, I need you to actively work on your attachment patterns through therapy. I'm not asking you to be perfect, but I am asking you to be actively working on growth. Some avoidants who respect you will agree to this and follow through. Many will agree initially and then avoid actually doing the work. You have to be willing to leave if they agree but don't follow through, otherwise the boundary is empty. You can also recognize that earning respect doesn't change the fundamental problem and choose to leave anyway. This is the hardest choice because it means walking away from someone who now sees your value, who's treating you better than they treat most people, who clearly wants you in their life. But wanting you and being capable of healthy partnership with you are different things. You can acknowledge the respect, appreciate the improved treatment, recognize their genuine care for you, and still choose to leave because what they're capable of offering isn't enough for what you need. This isn't cruel, it's honest, it's choosing your needs over their limited capacity. Whatever you choose, don't fall into the trap of thinking you have to stay because you worked hard to earn their respect. The respect isn't a prize you won that now obligates you to remain in the relationship. The respect is simply information about how the avoidant perceives you. That information doesn't dictate your choice. You can be respected by someone and still leave them if the relationship doesn't serve you. You can be valued highly by someone and still recognize they're not the right partner for you. The respect changes the dynamic, but it doesn't create obligation. The alternative path, finding someone who doesn't require earning respect. The entire framework of earning and avoidance respect is somewhat dysfunctional when you step back and look at it clearly. In healthy relationships, respect is baseline, not something you earn through elaborate boundary setting and strategic distance. Secure people respect their partners automatically because they see their partners as equals, as valuable humans deserving of consideration and care. You don't have to prove your worth to secure people. You don't have to enforce boundaries constantly to maintain their respect. You don't have to walk away repeatedly to be valued. The respect exists from the beginning and remains consistent throughout the relationship. The energy you're spending on earning and maintaining an avoidance respect could be spent building a relationship with someone who respects you naturally. Someone whose respect doesn't require you to be constantly vigilant about boundaries. Someone who values you without you having to demonstrate you'll leave if you're not valued. Someone whose respect is stable rather than contingent on your continued performance of strength and independence. This alternative path is available, but many people don't take it because they're already invested in the avoidant, already attached, already hoping that the respect will lead somewhere deeper. The question to ask yourself is, why are you trying to earn respect from someone who should have respected you from the beginning? What makes you willing to work this hard for something that should be freely given? Often the answer involves your own attachment wounds, your own patterns of proving your worth, your own belief that love must be earned rather than freely offered. Understanding your own patterns is crucial because otherwise you'll repeat this dynamic with the next avoidant you encounter, earning respect that changes nothing about the fundamental dysfunction of pursuing people who are emotionally unavailable. You've earned the avoidant's respect, and that's significant. It means you maintained your dignity, enforced your boundaries, refused to make yourself small for someone else's comfort. These are good things, regardless of what happens with this specific avoidant. The respect proves you have self-respect, that you won't tolerate poor treatment indefinitely, that you have standards and the strength to enforce them. But the respect from one avoidant doesn't mean you should stay with that avoidant. It means you're ready for a real relationship with someone who has the capacity for it, someone who will respect you without you having to earn it, who will meet you in emotional depth without you having to demand it, who will choose you consistently without you having to threaten to leave. The avoidant's respect is confirmation you deserve that kind of relationship. The question is whether you'll waste that confirmation trying to transform the avoidant into someone capable of providing it, or whether you'll take the confirmation and find someone who already is capable.